Okay folks, now we are I guess almost in the last step right here. This is actually the swaging process. Dummy me, I ended up mixing up a bunch of LC brass that had already fired twice with some once fired LC brass. And what happens is when you buy once fired LC brass, the primer is actually installed into the brass and then it's crimped around the primer so the primer will not fall out. Well, once you fire it and then you deprime it, you still need to remove that crimp because the new primer will not install in there. So for once fired LC brass, you need to swage it. But I actually have mixed up in this batch here a couple of twice fired and once fired. So I don't know which is which. So now I'm stuck doing like almost 1,000 different rounds here that I have to swage because I don't know which is which. Anyways, I'm over here at the swaging process. Over here you're going to see me sitting in front of my sofa. The TV's immediately in front of me. This is not a thinking man's process. I don't have to worry about over or undercharging brass or anything. It's just to pretty much install it, pull the handle, it gets swaged, dump it into the bucket down there on the floor. What I did was I have a little ghetto homie don't you know me 3-rung stool here, and I pre-drilled 3 holes on it. And the holes are actually right here, 1, 2, and 3. And what I do is I put everything away. And when I'm ready to swage, I just pull out the stool, pull out the Dillon swager, just install the 3 screws, and it's ready to go. It does not need to be rock solid. It's not one of those processes that everything has to be totally unmovable. This is a Dillon swager. I think it ran me like almost $100, like $95, $97 or something like that. When you install the brass in here, there's actually a little nipple that comes out every time you pull the handle down. There's a little nipple that comes out. And what happens is you install the brass in here, you put it in there. When you crank the handle, a little nipple comes out and will actually widen up the hole and also clean it a little bit. And that's called swaging. I don't know if you guys could see this or not. Shoot. Anyway, so that's the process. Once again, there's a lot of rounds that I have to do here. And I really dislike this step, actually. The bad thing about it is I got like over 1,000 rounds that I have to do, which is just a pain in the posterior. But the good thing about it is I can watch my TV shows, whether it be The Unit, Law and Order, or whatever. Like I said, it's not a thinking man's process. So I could do 2 things at once. I could walk and chew gum at the same time. And the good thing about it, once again, is that you could actually put your hand on every single piece of brass. Every once in a while, you'll find something very subtle, but you know, my mind is always thinking about it. So even though I pick up brass and it looks like I'm not thinking about it, my mind's actually working. I'm feeling for bulges, I'm feeling for splits, I'm feeling for something. And you can usually catch those. The swager does need to be adjusted, and the way that you adjust it is you would put a brass piece in there, crank it, and then you'd pump out maybe 2 or 3 of this and then take it back to your press. And then once it's on your press, you're going to try to install a primer into it. If the primer fits in there, you know, not too easily, but just, you know, a nice snug fit, then you're good to go. If the primer is really sloppy and fits in there too loosely, then you actually enlarge the hole, and you need to adjust it so the hole is not enlarged so much. And that's the way that works. One of the things that you do need to be careful about is over widening this hole. Every once in a while, there's a couple over here that you can see. I'll come across some that the hole is actually too large. And what happens is when you put it in there and you drop the handle just drops really easy, just all the way down. And that shows me that the hole is enlarged too much. I would not use that brass for any reliable application. If for shooting a match or something where I need to ensure that it works 100% of the time, I would not use it. These would be all practice, maybe for, you know, going to the range in a static line or running the action range and just going out there and just, you know, pop, 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 wasting a couple rounds. But I would not use this in a reliable format or aspect or situation. Once again, speaking about the primer hole itself, there's a couple of things that I can think of negatively that would happen if you over enlarge this hole. One of them, of course, is if it's over enlarged, you stick the primer in there. I've actually seen tap it and the primer would actually fall out. So you don't want that. Number 2, sometimes you come across primers that they have hard cups. And the primer cup is actually the primer itself, the little metal around the primer. They're formed. And some of the primers have hard cups on them. So if you have an over-enlarged hole and you have one of those primers that have a hard cup and it's installed within the primer pocket all the way in, you should have no problem. The primer or the firing pin is going to hit it, it's going to ignite it. But if you have a primer that's got a hard cup and it's installed partially into the primer pocket, what's going to happen is when the primer hits that hard cup, the primer is going to shift within the primer pocket. And what that's going to do is it's probably not going to ignite, because that shifting is already taking some of the force from the firing pin. So you're probably going to have a failed ignition. And that kind of bites when you're in a match and all of a sudden you got to do a rack and clear to clear your weapon. Another thing also is if the primer pocket is too large, you're not going to have a proper seal of the primer, which means that the pressures are going to be a little bit off. The pressures igniting the powder is going to be a little bit off too, and you might have inconsistent powder ignition. So those are three things that I'm thinking of. For semi-auto, I don't think you have to worry about the last one. You know, the powder ignition doesn't have to be so accurate, so consistent, equal all the way through. But when you're shooting bolt action for competition or for long distance shooting, or you're making, bolt action rounds, and that's a different story. You want everything to be nice and tight, very working good. So that's the deal. This is the swaging process. What I did was I have a bucket down here. I don't know if you guys can see that down there. And I have a towel down here on my left, and on the towel I have all the brass. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually put this in here, crank it, pop it out. And this is pretty much the rate that I work in. Oops. Doesn't take too much effort. Like I said, it's not a thinking man's process. But you do got to do them one at a time. And once again, at least you get your hands physically on the brass, which is good. Ugh. Okay, and that's it. That is how you swage. So we've already we've prepped the brass. And then after prepping the brass, we've put it in the vibratory tumbler. We removed the lube. We've removed the case and the media. We separated them. And this is the brass that we have here on hand. And now we're swaging it. So I got to go through this whole batch over here. Actually, I'm already done. I finished almost the whole thing before I started videotaping. And the next and the last step is the actual loading of the round. Unlike pistol brass, this brass is already finished. It's done. There's nothing else that needs to be done to it. It's going to go into the press. We're going to load a primer. We're going to put in the charge. We're going to seat the bullet, crimp it, and whatever comes out is ready to shoot. So that's it. Unlike pistol brass, that the round is completely finished, you have to put the primer in, you got to load the charge, put the bullet in, seat it, and remember it's lubed. So after the round is completed, you still need to remove the lube. So that's one more step. And this one is done. This is completed brass. So that's pretty much it for the brass preparation aspect of it. The next step, I'll see you at the press. I'm going to explain some of the things that I did with the die, what dies that I use, the tool head that I use, and psychobabble a little bit more so you guys can understand some of the concept. Once again, this is, I don't know if you can see this or not, that is a swaged LC brass. And that is what it looks like. The crimps, I don't know if you guys could see them or not, but the crimps are actually circles, complete circles around the primer pocket. So, and they have other ones that if you look at the pocket, you're going to see a notch here, like tick, a notch there, and a notch there. 4 notches, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's also another way of crimping the brass. And then for LC brass, you got the circle, and you actually have another circle right around it, and that's crimped brass. So this brass, once again, is done. It has now been swaged, and it has been opened up and cleaned up a little bit, and the primer is ready to be set into it. Okay, so I'll see you guys at the next stage, and we shall go from there. Talk to you then. See you over there.